So the training heart rate, so the layout will look something like this. And why don't we go ahead and create a project and then design this layout? Okay, and we'll do this together. So I'm gonna close this and create a new project. And if you do it now, we do it together, you can hand it in, right? So new project. This is chapter 6 or chapter 5. It's lab, just say lab 1. I put I put lab 1. Okay. All right, so let's set it up so it looks just like that example on the book. So put that over here. Kind of I need a property. Right here. Solution and the property. Okay, so toolbox. So the title of this form should be heart rate, right? This is heart rate. So how do you change that? So if you click on the form, and if you go down to the text, it should be like heart rate. Kind of want to match that. So we need a label. We have label for age, label for the resting heart rate, a label for the THR, and then we have a button determine training heart rate. Okay, so let's just do I'll do label first. Okay, this label will be the label for age, LBL age. I'll change the value, the text to be age, the colon. You can keep it small. I'll just make my big so we can see on the screen. So my font would be, again, I use 20. So the age, and then I'm just going to copy this, put over here for the resting heart rate, and then down here for the training heart rate, THR. So this one here is going to be THR. THR label. Up here is the resting heart rate, so I'm just going to call it the short LBL RHR, I guess. And the value, the text would be resting heart rate. And how do I make the new line? Okay, notice how I did that. If you go here, and if you click the arrow here, and then if you hold down your shift key and press the enter key, you can make multiple lines. Okay, so that will force it's like a hard carriage return. And I forgot to put the colon there, so put the colon. There it is. Alright, so let's go and add the text field, text box, H. Again, this will be a font size of 18. What did I use, 18 or 20? I think I used 20. Yeah. So it's a TXT for H. Put it here. And I'm just gonna drag, okay, control and then drag. Put it here for the heart rate and then down here for the THR. Okay, so this is the TXT THR. Make it a little bit wide. Over here is the TXT resting heart rate is RHR. And then our button goes right in here. It doesn't look this big, but it's fine. This is the BTN. This is what I don't know. DTHR. And then the text for that button will be determine training heart rate. Make the font a bit bigger. I try my usual 20. And if you want to change the color, you can. If you go here, the 4 color. No, it's the background color. Okay, the back color, if you want to change that to a different color. A bit too blue, I guess. Maybe something like that. Okay. So that is our form. Now we got, again, so that's the step, right? You do the layout design, that's step 1. The output is also here. And then the most time consuming part is the process. Okay, so you do the processing. So all these here is, all we need is just, we click the training heart rate, and then that should read the data from the age and the heart rate, resting heart rate here. Do a calculation and then output to the THR, your training heart rate. Okay? So I'm going to maximize this now. And then let's read the instruction. What does it say? Okay, so the thing is you have to read it and make sure you understand what it's asking of you, so you know to tackle this any problem. Again, think about refining your code, right? Break it down to piece by piece. And this one here is pretty much self-explanatory. The author is pretty much gave you everything here already, but sometimes it's it could be difficult to put into code. So that's why I usually put into pseudocode, right? So you read in pseudocode. So this one here, as you can see, all these are kind of like in pseudocode already, if you think about it. So it says, in order to for exercise to be beneficial to the cardiovascular system, heart rate, that is the number of heartbeats per minute, right? The heart rate must exceed a value. This value is called the training heart rate, so the THR. So a person's THR can be calculated from his or her age, so we need age, and the resting heart rate. So the resting heart rate is the pulse rate when first awakening, as follows. Okay, so give those instructions here. So A, calculate the maximum heart rate as 220 minus age. So we need something to store the value, the maximum heart rate. Okay, so we can create a variable called maximum heart rate, and then that you assign that to 220 minus age, right? So you can write that down. And so if you go in the code, we can just double click this button here. So we go into the code view, and we start putting this into to our nodes or pseudocode. Okay, so the first one here is we need a maximum heart rate and 220 minus age. So we can see that we'll assume that this could be integer, right? So age is usually a whole number. So heart rate we don't usually count like by decimal numbers, it's also a full number. So we can use the integer type. Right, so you have the maximum heart rate equals 220 minus age. We know that part. That's one, that's a pseudocode, we need that. And then subtract the resting heart rate from the maximum heart rate. Okay, so the resting heart rate, where is that? So where's the resting heart rate? So if you look at your form, we have a resting heart rate here. We call it TXT. I think I'll call my RHR. Okay, so you subtract this from the maximum heart rate, right? So that means that we're going to have maximum heart rate equals maximum heart rate minus the resting heart rate, right? It's to subtract that from that. It didn't say assign it somewhere else. It just to subtract that. So we could have a different value. And then multiply the result in step B by 60%. Okay, so whatever this result is, so here we could have a different value here. I call it master rate, but this could be like a, I don't know what you want to call that. Maybe we just call it, what should we call it? So we just call this, for now, the maximum heart rate minus the resting heart rate is, let's just say we could call this heart rate, I don't know. Okay? And the third step says you're going to multiply the value, which is the heart rate in this case, by 60%, and then add that result to the resting heart rate. All right? So that means the resting heart rate, so resting heart rate, add the result, then when they add the resting heart rate, multiply the result by 60%, and then add the resting heart rate. No, so we have to say, I'm going to multiply this, whatever that is, it's a heart rate. We just put a pseudocode here. We could have it change later. Multiply that by 0.60%, right? And then it says add the resting heart rate. And we'll assign this into a different value, whatever this value is.
And that's a training heart rate?
That is the TH rate, right? Yes. So this is the training heart rate. This is the THR. And then we just output that to the screen. I call it heart rate here. You just call this anything you want, a temp rate or something. That's fine. Okay, so let's put it into code. So first we need a variable called the maximum heart rate. So we'll dim a max I'll call it heart rate. I use underscore. You could use you can do this, it's fine too. Max heart rate, okay? Not a very common way. Maybe this is better. As integer, well, in this case, why don't we just maybe use it all double, because the resting here will be double. Well, it doesn't matter. It's okay, integer is fine. Integer. And that's going to be assigned to 220 minus age. So the age is from the age field, right? So what's that? txt age. So you get that part done. So that's your maximum heart rate. And then we need to define another variable to store the new value. We're going to subtract the resting heart rate from that maximum heart rate. So here I used the heart rate, but you can call it something else, it's fine. So heart rate as integer is equal to your maximum heart rate minus the resting heart rate. So where is that coming from? That's our txt resting heart rate. That text, right? And then finally we have the dim THR as in this case will be double because we have a decimal number. I could be wrong, but let's just say it was double. We'll see. And that's going to be equal to the heart rate times 60% plus the resting. So the resting heart rate is txt again dot text. So you can see it's not really useful here. Okay, as you can see that I did that twice. So typically you want to set these into variables. So why don't we do that to make it more efficient. So up here I'm going to declare a dim age variable as integer. Okay, assign that to your txt age dot text. Okay, then here we'll just replace this with the age. You do the same thing with the the TXTR. So dim resting heart rate as integer, txt rhr dot text. I know it's long, but it makes whole sense. Copy, we place it here, then also here, right? So yeah, you could parent these two, or you don't have to. Why? Yeah. So in this case, the multiplication will occur first anyway, but it's always safe to put that here, okay? Because sometimes you might add something to it or do something else to it. So it's always safe to do that first. But in terms of precedence, in this case, it wouldn't matter. But yeah, it's always good to do that. It's easier to see the calculations. And then finally, we just output that to the form txt result. No, txt thr dot text equals the thr to string. And I think we just want a no decimal place. So the 0 means no decimal place. It's a double. Or you can leave it as integer, and then I guess we'll solve the problem. But let's see end 0 and see what happens. Okay, so let's save this and run and see if it works. If it doesn't, then we'll check our calculation. Maybe something's wrong. And I forgot to center my form, so that's why I have to drag over here. All right, so we'll copy the one in the book. It says age is 20 and resting heart rate is 70. Let's see if you get the same result. If you don't, then something's wrong. Right? Either we're wrong or the book is wrong. And it shows 148. Okay? So we're okay. And if you increase by age, the number here goes down. So I guess the older you get, the weaker your training heart rate. I don't know. Okay, so we got it working. Now it asks you to put this in a function, right? So you can see how you can easily put this together here in the code here. Now you want to put this into a function so that all you have here is basically this. I want to have something like THR, not Thursday, but equals maybe calculate training for THR. Okay? We'll do something like that. And then in that function, so you do all this function here, this calculation should be inside that function. Okay, so I'm passing the heart rate and then the age. Basically, that's all I need. Okay, so I'm going to pass the age and then the resting heart rate. I just need those two, right, to calculate. But this one is just a third variable name. So we could create a function down here. So this function, we call it calculate THR. So function calculate THR, and we expected 2 parameters. And we could use the same name, we could use different name, it's fine. Doesn't matter. But let's just use the same name, the age and the resting heart rate. So age. What's next? The data type, okay? Age as integer. Then the resting heart rate, also integer. So what should this function return? Double, why? That's correct, but why? Why is it double? How do you know it's double? Right, so you have to look at the equal sign. Who is receiving this number or this value, right? Look at it, oh, it's THR. Well, what type of data is THR? It's double, so this better be a double, right? That's what you expect. So you can go either way. You do the function first, and then you go back and say, okay, this function returned a double, so therefore I have to declare a double variable. If you think it this way, oh, you know, I'm expecting a double, then you would do this way first, and then you go write your function, and it has to be a double. Okay, so either way. So this will be a double. Okay. So now, since I already have all of these here calculated, I can now copy this whole thing, right? Or I can cut it. Or copy is fine. We'll copy first. We'll paste it down here, so you can see everything's already in place. Because we passed the age to that, resting heart rate to those. And we calculated the THR down here. We just need to return the, what are we returning? What should we return? THR, right? Again, if you look at your function, it just says calculate THR. So that's how you make it meaningful. So we're going to return the THR back. So now up here, we can start eliminating these data up here. So we don't need this anymore. Okay, you can delete that. I'm just going to just comment it out. I don't need that. The dim here, I need the THR because I need to store that for the output, but I don't need this part here. Okay, I could do like let me just do that here and do a new dim down here. You could do like dim THR as double, right? And then call it right away like this. Okay. If you don't, then you can do that first, and then down here THR equals that, and then you just basically do it 2 lines. But if you're going to do it, and this very short one, might as well just do that. Okay. And then I think we are done with this one. Okay. So we'll read the input here. And this button, the age and the resting heart rate, and we pass those 2 values by value to the function calculate heart rate, and all the other information are in here, so we can calculate this THR and return it back. Okay? Or you could say, you know what? Why do you have to do that here? I mean, couldn't you just because here I can also access directly from from here, I could just copy this, just show you like lots of ways. You don't need that. You could put that here, right? And then if you do that, you see that I don't need that. I don't need this whole thing here. And then I don't need anything here. It just be empty. So very short. It should still be fine because the function can access these forms too, right? I can read them here too. So in this case, you don't have to pass the data over. Okay. So either way you do, it's fine. This way is fine. I read the data here. If I don't want to use the age in here at all, then you could just do it this way. Okay? But this way you don't pass any parameters, any argument to the function, whereas the other way we do. So that's another way. But for now, we'll just leave it as it was before, and because it looks a little bit more advanced, right? We pass data to a function. So now we save, and if you run, you should get the same result. Okay, you have again here 20, 70, we should get 148. Okay, so there you have it. Any questions? How to set this up? So if you read the questions line by line, what it's asking, and if there's any variable that it's in there, just define it. If there's none, declare a new one. Okay. I always recommend that you would declare local variables to store these inputs here. Okay. Even though you could just type in here directly instead of typing age and so on, it's always nice to use a local variable and then play with those local variable and not the text field. Okay. And again, it's always good to comment your code. So here you could put a comment here, say this, calculate the training heart rate and returns the training heart rate back, whatever. This 220 here is fixed, so you could use that as a constant if you want. Same thing with the 60 here. You can use that as a variable name instead of the .6. Okay, you put those into a constant numbers because those don't change. And it's really not nice to have constant numbers or string literals in your code. It's always put those into variable names. It's just nicer, easier to maintain, easier to debug. Okay, so okay, so the other two assignments are kind of similar, and if you do them again, just read the instructions. This one here, you just basically input 3 numbers, and you're going to write a function to determine the smallest number. Return the number back. Okay, so this function returns. If you're going to use the way that we did, this function will receive 3 parameters. We have 3 parameters. So you pass those to the function, and then you check those numbers, which is the smallest one. I'll let you do that fun. That should be a fun one. And return the smallest. If you have 2 equal, then those will be the smallest one, right? If 3, 7, 3, then will still be 3. This one here is a little bit, it requires a little bit thinking, but if you read the instruction, you should figure this out also. Again, I use functions, okay? Don't just do everything like you did here in the here. We can do that first. You can do that here and make sure everything's all working out fine, and then break it down into a function. Okay, that is the whole point of these exercises, to use functions. And I don't assign any assignments, just the lab here for this week. Okay, so if you notice in the applied folder, there's no assignments. Okay, I mean, if you are still working on your payroll, make sure that's done, because next week we'll do the subroutine, and then you will update your payroll application using functions and sub procedures. Okay. So, any questions before we adjourn for today?
This one is not working with me, so.
Okay. All right. If not, then that's it for today. And then, if you have any questions, please send me an email, and we'll have our midterm 2 weeks from today. Okay.